There's the story that people tell, and then there's the truth that really matters. Welcome to the Growth Obsessed podcast. It's real and raw conversations on leadership, business, and the relentless pursuit of growth. No fluff, no highlight reels, just the struggles, the setbacks, and the lessons that build true success. I'm Ben Lang, and I sit down with the most driven entrepreneurs and leaders to really uncover what shapes them, the pain, the resilience, and the breakthroughs. So if you're here, you're not looking for surface level motivation. You're here to be challenged, to grow. So let's get real. Let's get uncomfortable. This is the Growth Obsessed podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now, because the conversation that you need might be the one that changes everything. Today I've got Kellie Revoir, and I'm super stoked because Kellie is a rock star all around, super smart and incredibly charismatic. I remember seeing you on stage at Club Wealth years ago, and I'm like, man, she's got like a real presence and an aura that, like, I think is very magnetic. I think when I see you in stage, and now that I know you like on a personal level, you've got like an energy about you that's just, I think, is very magnetic. So I first want to say that. But Kellie, you've accomplished some great things. You're one of the few team leaders out there that actually has a profitable team. So I want to dive into
Many of them.
I want to dive into, I know like a little bit about, like everybody sees, this is the thing, like everybody sees like the Facebook posts and like the wins and the level of success. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I want to be like that person. But what they don't see is the struggles and the mountain that had to be climbed to get there. I feel like it's, have you ever heard life is like the gym? If you look to your left, there's somebody that, you want to be like and you're striving to be like. But if you look to your right, there's someone that would die to be where you currently are. And I feel like kind of like that's what it is, right? So anyway, tell me about a journey, a little bit about your upbringing, and then how you got into real estate and up until where you are now.
Well, thank you for the intro. You're very sweet. And I will say that intro of who I am is truly who I want to be known for. And I really appreciate that you saw that in me and told me about that, because I would say that is probably the biggest compliment that anybody can ever give me. Besides all of the other superficial compliments, something like that truly means a lot. So thank you for that. For sure. I appreciate that. So my upbringing, I was born into a family of entrepreneurs, for sure, which is, I'm sure, I feel like a seed was planted in me in the womb. My family, we grew up owning a cabinet shop, owning a new construction shop, owning rental property. We owned a wallpaper store, a paint store, a tool shop, a cell phone company back when cell phones were getting started. Kind of had our hands in all things construction, real estate related, even prior to becoming a real estate agent. My dad started building houses in the early 80s. When we moved to Southwest Missouri, I was still not even in kindergarten yet when we moved here, and started building houses. He liked working with his hands and decided that's the route that he wanted to take. So I've always grown up in new construction. I was raised, even at the age of 5, like sanding cabinets and filling in nail holes. When I got old enough to start laying sod, I was laying sod and I was hanging up insulation, and hated every minute of it, every minute of it. When I was 14, I wanted so far away from all things real estate. I couldn't run fast enough. And I found out I could be a busser at a restaurant. And trust me, that was like a cakewalk compared to what I had done when I was younger. So I really did not want anything. I didn't want anything to do in real estate. I really wanted very far away from that. So I graduated high school, graduated college, got 2 college degrees, and started working for a data cabling company. And, I feel like as entrepreneurs, there's always a bug. There's a little bug inside of us that's always like, you can do more. This isn't fulfilling. This isn't your future. And so I was always out there trying to just search of what was going to fulfill me. And I bet you, for your listeners, we can all relate to this. We always just feel like there's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. And I was constantly on the hunt to figure out what that was. And fast forward, I was at that corporate job. I was in corporate America for 13 years, very unfulfilled and in some pretty dark and deep places back then. I at that point had gotten married. I'd had a couple of kids and was divorced by 30. By 33, I was basically just living a life of doing the bare minimum of what I needed to do to be a parent. I mean, I love my children more than anything. So I would parent when I needed to parent, I would work when I needed to work. But outside of those two things, I was drinking heavily. So it was not, I mean, I thought it was fun at the time. I tell people pretty much in my 30s, I was drunk pretty much that entire decade is what it feels like looking back at it now. And there's just a lack of happiness when that's your life. You go to work, you're a parent. When their dad had my kids, I mean, I was out just, partying it up, thinking that this is fun and exciting. And boy, it's not. You get to some pretty dark, deep places. So I quit corporate America, started living on food stamps and Medicaid and unemployment, and trying to figure out what I wanted to do. My health was failing tremendously. I spent 6 months really trying to figure out my life. And that was the lowest point that I've ever been in my life at that time. My mother was a real estate agent, and she still is. At that time, she was a real estate agent. She got licensed in 2006. So now we're talking 2013 is when this happened for me. So she had gone through the crash of '08. I know, Ben, you did too. So you were in the middle of the crash as well and survived. And I like to tell people she became the number one agent by default because she got up every day. She put one foot in front of the other. Since my father was a builder, we couldn't get loans. They were not loaning. Banks weren't loaning any money unless it was a spec house. Or I'm sorry, they weren't loaning money for spec houses. They were only loaning money if it was a custom. Nobody was building any customs. So my mom was like, I guess I'm going to do this real estate thing full time. At the time, she was only the realtor for my father. And so she went out and started actually, trying to drum up business. So many other real estate agents had to go get jobs, hourly wage jobs. And that's just not, wasn't what she had envisioned. So she worked and worked and worked, and her business actually grew during that recession. And by the time that 2013 rolled around, she was the number one agent in her brokerage and drowning in paperwork because this was like right at the cusp before e-signing was a thing. And when you had to go out and meet your clients just to get an inspection notice signed, So she asked me while I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, she asked me to come help her just as her TC. And I said, that's fine. I will help as your TC while I try to figure my life out, but that's it. And then I don't even know if I worked a couple of months for her before she said, you need to go get your license because there's that fine line of what a TC can do and who they can talk to without getting themselves in trouble. So, I mean, I was kicking and screaming. I was like, I do not want to be an agent. I don't want to be licensed. And she said, just go get your license. And that way it'll make your life, our lives a little bit easier when it comes to TC work. So I did. And full disclosure, I did not pass my first time, which was humiliating because I did not want to have to call my mother and say, I know I grew up in the real estate world, but I did not pass my test. Ironically, I did not pass my first test because I started having relationship issues with a guy I was engaged to and kicked him out of the house the night before. And then I had to show up to my test and try to actually pay attention. And I'm pretty sure the gentleman behind the counter at the time almost saw me have a full-on breakdown at that point. I was such bad shape because I missed it by 1 point. We needed to have 70 points and I had 69. So waited my 3 days, retook the test and passed. And I mean, fast forward now 12 years in, here I am. So that's like the first half of my life in a very quick nutshell.
Yes. I mean, everyone has a story. And I think I want to know more about like the 6 months where you said it was you were in a deep and dark place, and like I know your mom kind of helped pull you, and I want to talk about your relationship with your mom and what kind of influence she's had in your life too. But first I want to talk about like the 6 months. How did you, other than your mom, like, encouraging you to come work for her, what did you do to get out of that space, that headspace?
I that yeah. So that was really, really, really hard. I was in such a bad place. I know a lot of people talk about what stress does to your body. The amount of stress that I had from my job, my job really wasn't even like the corporate job was not even all that stressful. The stress was things I had brought onto myself. It was all decisions that I had made that got me to where I am. So, and I'm incredibly grateful for that job. I just knew that I didn't need to be there anymore. A lot of things were happening for me personally. I wasn't in a good, healthy relationship at that time because I'd already broken up with my ex husband. We were fully divorced. And so I wasn't in a healthy relationship at that time. I had a kid that was 4 years old that kept getting kicked out of daycare. So I kept having to take off work and go pick him up and be at home with him. And my relationship with my ex husband wasn't doing well. So we were fighting a lot. And I started having like do not know this. So I started having a rash that would break out on my neck and it would break out on my arms and my hands. And I kept going to see a doctor and he kept saying, yeah, is it jewelry? Is it new lotion? Is it new hair products? Going down the gamut and tried this medication and this medication and this medication and nothing was working. And then he said, hey, I just kind of think it's stress. And I was like, no, that's dumb. That's it's not stress, but I would get sick a lot. Every February I would have strep throat. Every August I would have a sinus infection. November I had bronchitis. I mean, I could tell you what sickness I had almost to the day. And that was reoccurring for years. The sicknesses, the more stress that I got, the bigger that the rash got. So when I left that job and I took that 6 months, it was a full on detox is what that was. I probably spent the first few weeks just laying in bed, to be honest, and trying to figure out how did I get here? When did this happen? You feel like you just saw it, but then you realize that this has been happening for a long time and I was just ignoring it. I was drowning it in alcohol. I was really doing anything and everything that I could to ignore it and push it away, staying out all night long. I mean, my gosh, there were nights I'd get home at, I can't say nights, there were mornings I would party all night, get home at 6 a.m., sleep for like an hour, and get up and go to work, It was so unhealthy. And so I just kind of went on a full on detox of everything. It was almost like a forced detox, to be honest. I spent a lot of time in bed. I decided to redo my children's rooms because they were toddlers. They were no longer babies. And so I did a lot of like work at home. I had one that was in kindergarten at the time. So I would go visit him and volunteer at his school, just anything to get me out of the house and feel productive. That wasn't like, Kelly, you have to do this. Cause I think that was a lot of what was weighing me down is all the things that are required. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I just wasn't there to do it. And when Linda, who's my mother, she asked me to start working as a TC, I mean, it was maybe 10 hours, then it was 15 hours, then it was 20 hours. It wasn't a full-time job because I didn't have it in me to give her a full-time job. And even then, I remember being in her office. She's the number one real estate agent, and she yelled at me for something. I'm sure I didn't do something right, and the paperwork aspect, and she got onto me. And I mean, I just lost it. I just cried in her office, which is nothing like when I look back, like, oh, that's so embarrassing. I'm sure she was so embarrassed. Her daughter's having a meltdown in the middle of the office. So just that was a really, really, really challenging, rough time of my life for sure.
So that 3 weeks, you're laying in bed. My first night in rehab, inpatient rehab, when I'm, bona fide alcoholic, I'm looking at the ceiling and I'm like, when did all this happen? How did
Yeah.
this happen?
Yeah.
So I could totally relate because I'm like, I couldn't even pinpoint a day or a week or a month or even a year where it just all went sideways. For me, it was like a lot of, because I was drowning myself in alcohol, it was a lot of like getting to know me again. Did you experience
Yeah.
that during that time?
Yeah, I read a lot. I journaled a lot. I did a lot of reflection. And even now I do a lot of that. 12 years later, I'm still doing all of that for sure. That's where I learned so much about who I am and who I wanted to become.
And that's really important. Actually, I love that you said that. Who you want to become. Like I love like the daily habits and going through like, because I talk to a lot of very successful people and people that I look up to and people that are just like light years ahead of me. And I love the common themes. And like the common themes are like faith and, inner circle and the daily habits, right? Like a lot of personal growth habits. Like people make time for the personal growth habits, which would include the journaling, include what else did you say you did?
Well, now I meditate. I read every day. I definitely make sure that I spend time with myself. But reading, I read a lot of personal development books. I just finished The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. It was unbelievable. It was a very impactful book, and it was recommended to me by a couple of other people. That was a very impactful book. So if you haven't read it, I definitely say put it on your reading list as something you need to read. But I read every day. I journal every day. Try to get 30 minutes to 45 minutes of working out in or movement, even if it's just walking the dog every day, sitting with myself. I notice when I don't journal is when I notice that I start to get a lot of pent up stress. And you just go back to the basics. It sounds so crazy. That's dumb just to sit in silence for 10 minutes. And it's not always in silence. Right now I'm there's a few things that I in my life I'm debating on. And so now my meditation is just sitting and trying to feel good about one decision or the other, which one's speaking to me, which one feels like that's the path I'm supposed to take, going back onto faith, whether that's God, whether that's the universe, whatever you feel that might be. But I think we all need to believe in something. So I do believe that we need to listen to those signs around us for sure.
Yeah, so how much it sounds like you give to you. It sounds like you give to you at least 90 minutes, 2 hours a day.
Yeah, probably. From the time that I get up in the morning to the time that I walk out the door is about 3 hours, and that includes all. Well, I go to the gym when I work out, so I can't say walk out the door, but get ready for work. It's like 3 hours in there, but that includes getting ready, eating breakfast, having coffee, working out, and then doing my checklist of things that I get done.
Yeah, and so that routine that you do, I mean, you just talked about it a little bit. You just said when you stop journaling, you notice your stress levels go up. How important do you think it is for people to pour into themselves, especially if they're an entrepreneur?
I think that is the most important thing that you should do. I mean, personally, over every phone call, over every appointment, over everything that we have to, because we have to show up for ourselves. And if we don't have the energy to show up for ourselves, then how can you show up for the people around you? So to me,
Yeah.
being selfish is the most selfless thing that you can do.
I totally agree. I'm glad you said that too, because like for me, being selfish in the way of pouring, not like being selfish only in the way of pouring into yourself. I believe that it allows you to show up as your best self for the people that love you. And I feel like that's what they deserve is the best version of you.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if you're not pouring into yourself and they're only getting, half of your best self, that's not really fair to them, I think. So I love that you said that because I think it's really key. It's really key that being selfish is a high form of love for the people around you. Let's talk about your mom. So your mom had obviously like did you always had a good relationship with her? You always looked up to her, or is that
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, except for, your normal girl teenage years.
yeah.
I don't know that any teenager has a good relationship with their parent, but yeah, I mean, I am very fortunate in that aspect because I know a lot of high performing entrepreneurs did not have a great upbringing, and that is why where they are in life. I was very blessed. Very, very tight family. My dad still is a builder on his way into retirement. My mother is still a real estate agent in her way to retirement. My brother is now taking over for my dad, and I am taking over for my mom. So we are one big happy family. And my sister-in-law works for me. We still go on family vacations together, all of our families. So yeah, we're talking every day. We're very, very close, and I am incredibly blessed for that. And that I try very hard not to take advantage of, yeah, I don't forget that because I do see a lot of my success. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my mother and my father pouring into me. There's a big difference between my mother and my father too. And my father's the risk taker. So I have taken a lot of risks because I have that part of him. I'm very much a risk taker. My mother is not. She likes safety and security. So luckily she's been able to deal with me solely because she's been married to my dad for 47 years. So she's kind of used to that. But, no matter what, through all of my failures, I've always been reminded of how much they love me. And even through some pretty rough failures, my father will say, "Hey, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you." And that has just really shaped who I am today. To know that my failures are, it's just a part of life. And just because I have a failure doesn't mean I am a failure. And people are still proud of me for doing that. It definitely helped when I pushed the boundaries.
Failure is just part of life. If you're not
Yeah.
failing, it means you're not trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I've got a
Yeah.
million failures. While we're talking about failures, what's the one failure that nearly shattered you, but also made you into the person that you are today?
So besides being unemployed for 6 months, because that was a real big one for me, outside of that, my next failure was breaking up with a guy that I was engaged to be married to. And that was in 20, well, it all happened about the same time period, just a couple years later. That one almost destroyed me. That one was where I swore off men for a year and I focused every ounce and energy and poured into growing myself internally. And that one really was the catalyst of why I am where I am today, is because I developed it. It took me a year. I mean, it did not happen overnight, but I learned so much about myself, who I wanted to become, who I was, where I wanted to be, who I needed to become in order to get to that place. And I poured into all things personal development, all things faith, and into being a mother and into being a real estate agent at the time, because I was fairly new in the whole real estate game as well. And I just poured into all of that. And that was the best thing that I've ever done for myself, because I learned how to have faith in myself and belief in myself. And I learned the value of me as a person, not me as a person with a partner. So it was the best thing I could have ever done.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I can relate to that too, because when I first got sober, I had like 2 years that were just like that. Like it was all about me. And I
Yeah.
will say, like, so it's 7 years down the road now, and I don't do some of those things that were so beneficial to me. And it's like, I know I need to, but that just, a 1 year or 2 years, just like really figuring out who you are, what are your core values, what do you stand for, what do you believe in, what are you willing to compromise on, what are you not willing to compromise on, what is who's the future self, what does that look like to you? I assume that whole year was all those things, right?
Yeah, all of that. And I mean, knowing your story, that going through all of that had to take a tremendous toll on who you were becoming, and not diving back into the bottle, because that's what we do. We want to go drink. We want to go, to just forget it. This is too hard. It is just so much easier to have a drink. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the amount of strength that you had to experience to go through all of that.
You really like lose sight of who you are, because when you're drinking, and you said you drank a lot, so maybe you did experience, but when you're drinking, you do things that are really outside of your core values. And by doing those things when you're drunk or whatever on drugs that are outside of your core values, you really lose sight of who you are deep down. It really takes a lot to get to know you again, like to rebuild all that stuff. I don't know if you experienced that when you were drinking a lot, but I certainly did.
Well, yeah, and then you wake up the next morning and you're mad at yourself for what you did the night before. So you spend the whole day beating yourself up and talking to yourself in ways that you would never allow somebody to speak to you that way. You'd never speak to anybody else that way. But you're so mad at yourself. So you spend the whole day getting pissed off at yourself. And then what do you do at the end of the day? You go grab a drink to drown it out. I mean, it is a vicious cycle.
It is. It's a vicious cycle, and it's the shame. The shame and the guilt makes you wanna drink again
Yes.
to get rid of the shame and the guilt. Tell me about, a moment where you almost gave up, but then you didn't.
Well, that is a great question. I honestly don't know if I've ever had a moment where I've just completely wanted to give up, to be honest. I don't think that I ever really had. I don't think that was ever really a choice for me that I allowed myself to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Nobody's
awesome.
ever asked me that before, Ben. That's a really good question. And I'll probably think of it late tonight and I'll text you.
How about, this one? What's one thing that success did not fix for you?
My worthiness for sure.
Your
For sure.
worthiness.
Yep.
Okay.
There's an amazing book by Jamie Kern Lima called, the name of it is Worthy. And she says there's a difference between confidence and worthiness. And when you first think of those words together, you're like, I don't really see the difference. But when you really start to dive into the meaning behind those words, I'm a very confident person, very confident person. I know if you give me a task, I'll get it done and I'll get it done well. Might take me a little bit longer, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Some people can get a task done in a year. Some people it takes 5 years. I will get it done. It might take me longer, but I will get it done. But that will not fix your worthiness. And that is still something that I do struggle with. No matter how successful you can become, it's still an internal struggle with the type of person that you are and your worthiness. And I think that is just still from my failures of my past and some past relationships that I've been in, that you start to question your value and your worthiness. So it's still something that I think that I work on every single day.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing you correctly, old wounds that
Yeah,
still require some healing.
sure.
So when you say you're working on it, like what are the healing process, what kind of things are you doing to heal yourself from those old wounds?
The main thing that I do a lot of affirmations and reminders. I don't struggle with it like I used to, but there is still that thing that pops up every once in a while. But I still journal. I still have my affirmations, and my affirmations are about worthiness. I've created a 5-year avatar of who I want to be, and a lot of it does not talk about the number of transactions that I want. It's more about who I am as an internal person. So it talks a lot about, my peace. I believe everybody deserves to be at peace. And so a lot of it talks about my internal thoughts and feelings. Reading that book, absolutely. I cried a lot when I was reading that book. I have a copy of it here because I'm getting ready to send it to a friend of mine. That's how much I love and believe in this book. So I'm actually getting ready to mail this to a friend of mine that I think he needs to read it, because I think there's so much power in finding our worth and our worthiness and our value. So those are some of the things that I do a lot, even now. To help combat that is I want to be there for other people. I try to pour into other people just like you have done as well. I feel a lot of value in myself when I'm able to help others and give. So I truly believe that my purpose in life is to help others go through some of the struggles that I've gone through. I know this is why you and I connected so well and so easily, because our hearts are both in the same place of what we want to accomplish in life. And it's to change the lives of those people around us, not necessarily sell the most number of houses.
Yeah, I know that you're really big about on paying it forward
Yeah.
and giving people the same opportunities that you were given when you were a single mom and you were struggling, and the welfare and the food stamps. And if I'm not mistaken, like you've had people on your team that you've helped get them kind of out of the, maybe not the same exact situation, but similar situations. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody and everybody. I love the person actually that I'm mailing that book to reached out to me just through Instagram, or Facebook, and just started talking to me and about some struggles that he was having, and suicidal struggles. And I haven't talked to him in years, but he'd been watching me in the background on my social media, and that's a huge gift for me. He almost felt like he was a burden to me. And I'm like, you have no idea the gift that you're giving me by having these kinds of conversations, and seeing that in me, to know that I could be that person for you was a huge gift for me. So I love paying it forward. I love helping others. That's why I wanted to be a team leader, to start that. Yeah, to just pay it forward. I think that's the greatest gift that we could give anybody.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't even know you're doing it because it's true. It's so true. Like you don't know who's watching your story and how it's affecting them. When you are authentic, right? And when you're sharing the adversity, when you're sharing the struggle and overcoming the adversity and the struggle, people are watching and they are paying attention.
Yeah, they
I know
really
that
are.
because they've reached out to me too.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
that for sure. What's the single most important lesson that life has taught you? The single most important lesson that life has taught you?
Do not give up ever. Don't give up.
Another
And
common
it's
theme on this. I
yeah, I mean
love it.
it just
I love
yeah,
it.
you can't stop. I mean, you had asked me earlier, when have I ever felt like stop? Never felt like stopping. I really haven't. I've never even it's not even an option for me.
You talked a little bit earlier about your 5-year avatar and what that looks like to you. And then it's not like transaction count or size of your team. So what is that legacy that you want to leave behind?
So if anybody knows Ed Milet, I think he's a great example of this. Ed's father was an alcoholic for the first, I think, 15 years of Ed Milet's life, and started going to AA. And Ed had a sponsor, ironically, whose name was also Ed, I think. But his sponsor changed Ed Milet's father's life, thus changing Ed Milet's life. And now you can see the amount of lives that Ed Milet changed. I don't ever want to be an Ed Milet, but I would love to be the sponsor. I want to be the sponsor that helps another person, that helps another person, that helps another person, that continues on with the journey. And that is really something that's what I want is to just reach this one person, and then maybe that can change the trajectory of their life, thus their kids lives, thus their kids lives and their kids lives. That's what I really really want in life, and the legacy that I leave is what I'm hoping to leave for my own children. To I know that I'm blessed with such an amazing family, but if you go lines up, it wasn't always that case. So my parents, grandparents, we didn't start that way. It just took that one person to change just a little bit of the legacy and the generations, and then just a little bit more changes, just a little bit more changes. That's really what I want for people. Being a single mother is the most challenging thing that I've ever done. Going back onto the selfless versus selfish, as women, we have a very challenging, hard time with that too, being selfish, because it's just not what is in our soul to
Yeah,
do
you're
that without a feeling of shame and guilt that surrounds that. So my legacy is to give people the permission and their grace to be selfish, and thus change legacies and generations down the road.
I love that. So kind of like the pebble in the pond, right?
Yes.
Have you
Yes,
heard
that's
that?
great. Yeah. The
Yeah.
ripple effect.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
one little tiny, tiny pebble in a pond can create a ripple effect that changes literally everything. Literally everything. I want to know what's the biggest lie that people tell about success?
That if I reach this level of success, then I'll be happy.
God, you nailed it.
Yeah. That just keeps moving. It never stops. It just keeps moving.
You know, I still tell myself that. Like when I hit this point, then I could be happy. I'm still struggling with that. Maybe not in success, but like I'm always like I'm too much in the future and not enough in the present. That's like my struggle. Anyway.
That's a gap in the gain. There's a book on that by Dr. Benjamin Hart.
What's it called?
The Gap in the Gain,
Oh, really?
Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. So the journaling helps with that. You can flip back and you can see where you've been. You can look back and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was there just a few
Mm.
months ago." And then you can see the growth. Honestly, I did not talk about my story of being on welfare. So, Ben, if you go back to when you were in the deepest throes of your addiction and look at where you've come today, and you said 7 years, that is not that long. It really is not that long. And the number of lives I've seen your posts and the conversations that you and I have had, Lisa's posts and the conversations that her and I have had, and the number of lives that you're changing that you don't even know that you're changing. This podcast is a great one. Your intro is spot on. How many of us have been transformed on one podcast that changed everything? You know, it happens over and over for the people that are ready to hear it. You have to be ready to hear that kind of stuff. When I look back at where I was in 2013 and the kids and I were literally shopping at Walmart with my SNAP card, it is humiliating. And I did not start talking about it until about 2 years ago because I didn't want anybody to know. Everybody knew I was a single mother, but nobody knew that we were literally living on unemployment food stamps and Medicare. Nobody knew that. Medicaid. I still get those confused. But nobody knew that we were doing that. And I didn't start telling people about 2 years ago. And that would have been a decade after we were in that space. And the first time that I told anybody, super embarrassing, but I realized somebody came up to me and said, I can't believe that. I had no idea. And then I realized that I'm starting to touch these people on a more authentic level. And now I look back and I think, oh my gosh, in 2013, I was here not even able to afford milk for us to drink. And look at where I am today. When you start to see that, even in you and yourself, when you start to see that, you'll realize how far you've come, and it will give you everything that you need to get up tomorrow when you might be having a bad day. Because it's not about you anymore. It's not about me anymore. It really is just about the lives that I can help for the people around me. That's
I
everything
love
for me.
that. And you are by sharing that story. So what I want to know what made you like 2 years ago, what changed?
So I'm in a group called Go Abundance Women. So there's a Go Abundance men's side and a Go Abundance women's side. And I was looking for something. I mean, you and I met in a coaching company. So I was looking for something similar to that, but not quite on like real estate coaching. I wanted something more. I wanted something bigger. I was introduced to them through another person that was within our same group that all of us were in. And within this group of Go Abundance women, not only do they talk about building wealth, building legacies, they also talk about, I went on a retreat in San Diego and there was a wisdom circle that we had. And you really had to talk about, tell me something that was the most painful for you. And we had 3 women or 4 women, depending on the size of the group, that were telling us, some dark things. And I was like, I got nothing, guys. You guys are all talking about abuse and sexual abuse and traumas that I can't relate to at all, right? And then we went on another retreat that fall doing the same thing. And women were all talking. I'm like, guys, I really got nothing. I guess I could talk about my divorce, but I was happy at that time that the divorce had happened, So I really didn't have a story until it hit me and I realized I do have a story. And so then the next time we did it, the next spring when we were on a retreat, I told my story. And then that's when I felt connections to people and bonds to people that I had not felt before. And it took me on this whole other spiral. And I never even spoke about it outside of Go Abundance. I talked about it when we were doing our wisdom circles, and then that was it. And then all of a sudden somebody had asked me to be on their podcast. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll be on the podcast. And it came up. And I'm like, oh my God, no, why are we talking about this? I don't want to talk about this. But then I had somebody else that said, oh my gosh, I heard this. And then I had somebody else. And then it's just literally spiraled from there. I was actually interviewed last fall for Tony Robbins. The boys and I went to UPW last fall. I created a Facebook post within their group of all the participants and said, I can't believe 13 years ago, the boys and I were living on food stamps. And I was bringing my boys with me to UPW. I said, now the boys and I are able to sit in the diamond seats. I never thought that I'd have this life. All of a sudden, I have people from Tony Robbins' organization reaching out to me and asking me to interview me during this event.
How cool is that? That's awesome.
Oh my God. Talk about goosebumps. Like I had them everywhere. I got a phone call. He was like, we want to interview you and your boys. And so at that time, my boys did not remember living on any of this. They don't remember those times. So I had to sit down with them. This was literally just less than a year ago. It was November of 2024. I had to sit down with them and say, hey, we're going to be interviewed by Tony Robbins' organization while we're at this event. And here's why. And I had to tell them that we were living on welfare food stamps and unemployment. And that was humiliating for me as a parent. But we really had to talk. They had no idea. And we live a very good life right now. They had no idea. I said, we were literally, you guys were eating like cheese and crackers for dinners at times. And they did not know any of that. They didn't remember any of that. So when they were interviewed, we were interviewed 3 or 4 times while we were there. The first night that we were there, the interviewer asked the boys what their first thought was whenever that happened. And both of them had just said they had a whole new appreciation for me as their parent and what I've been able to overcome, but also for the people around them that do live on, government assistance and welfare. Knowing now that they were in that same boat, I think humbled them rapidly. And it was a very good bonding moment for all of us. But it was really hard to tell them because I never really wanted them to know. I hid it for people for so long, for so long.
So, like, if anyone, like, for people that are listening to this right now, that's what I really want people to get out of this. Like, there's been so many good things that have happened, it sounds like, as a result of you not being ashamed and embracing,
Yeah.
not only like not being ashamed, but really embracing, and being truly authentic. It sounds like for you, there's been good things that have come out of it. But most of all, part of your legacy is that ripple effect. And like that very story contributes to your legacy,
Yeah. It
right?
really does. And the amount of growth that I've experienced since I've been open about it has been tremendous too. The number of people that have reached out to me already and the people that I feel like I'm planting little seeds in them. But it took me feeling worthy enough, going back to, the hard things that I struggle with, feeling worthy enough to tell people about it without feeling shame around it. And I truly believe people are put in front of us for a reason. And I truly believe that the universe will provide strength for you whenever you are ready for it.
Yeah. I would agree with that 100%. So someone's listening right now and they're in a deep dark place and they struggle with self-worth, and self-worth is one of the things that's really holding them back in life. What is the most powerful advice that you give to that person?
That is a really great question. Just
Or how
going back
about
to the
this, even if we reframe it, so you said you've been dealing with self-worth issues forever. So let's say you can go back and give your younger self advice to kind of initiate that healing process earlier, or maybe speed up the healing process, or maybe just not let it have a negative or as much of a negative effect on daily life. What is that advice?
We just can't give up on ourselves. The lowest part of the low is created for a reason. And I believe that we are given our struggles. You've had yours as well. The universe handed you sobriety and said, all right, Ben, go do amazing things with this. But it took a really dark, deep place for you to be there. But it also gave you the permission. It gave me, going through all the things that I've gone through, gave me the permission and the strength. I feel like the universe knows you and I are strong enough to be able to pass this on to people and to help them grow stronger as well. So when you don't give up on yourself, you can't give up on yourself, because you will find as you move through this, there will be somebody that needs you, and you don't know who this person is. They're probably not in your life right now, but in the future, you will find somebody that needs you to have gone through all the things that you've gone through, because you need to help them. And they need to, thus learn, in my instance, to be better parents, to be better grandparents, just the legacy continues, be better partners. But I had to go through everything that I had to go through because it's given me a platform to help everybody else in front of us. So don't give up, because what's happening right now is the universe is giving you things because it knows you're strong enough to overcome it, and it can see that you will be helping others in the future. That is what I firmly, firmly believe through the failures and the struggles and the strengths that we've all had over the years and the challenges.
Powerful. Very powerful. Last question. If we strip away your success, we stripped away the fact that you're a mother, we strip away your team, and we strip away all of that, who is Kellie Revoir at her core?
I am somebody, I'm a huge lover. I love all people, not judgmental at all. So that I think is definitely a big strength of mine, is that I make people feel comfortable, and at ease with themselves. Not always. This is my hope. I mean, I feel like I do this for people, but I is somebody that is incredibly strong and that would love nothing more than to help you believe in yourself.
Love it. And I see that, by the way.
Thank you.
You said you hope to be that person. You are that person. I do want to say that. You've got an incredible story between, the paths that you've gone down and the triumphs over the adversity and the never giving up and always just one foot in front of the other. I love, love, love how much you're dedicated to personal growth and becoming the very best version of yourself. I think that you're elevated on that level, and I think that's super cool.
Thank you.
And you've given some really good book recommendations.
Yeah, I've got plenty. So if anybody ever needs any, just reach out to me.
Gosh, I'm gonna check out the Gap and the Gain and the Way
Yes,
of
it's a good one.
Integrity and Worthy. They all sound like phenomenal books. So I thank you for your time today, and I got a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of value out of it. Just learning, and I just love hearing people's stories, and I love hearing the triumph. I really do. Everybody, like, it's everyone's life's coming to get you no matter who you are. I mean, it's
It
coming
will be
for you
there.
one way or another. So, it's important, I think, for everyone to know the daily habits and the book recommendations and the mindset that it takes to get through to the other side. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys reaching out. And I would read Worthy before you read Way of Integrity.
Yeah.
So read
Okay.
Worthy first and then read Way of Integrity. Read Gap in the Gain first off.
Yeah, for
That should be
me.
your first one.
Yeah.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
me, I feel like that one's a good one.
That's
And
a
if
very good one.
are you hiring agents for your team right now?
Always hiring agents for the team. I'm always ready to change lives. Yes. So
And
hiring
where
agents.
and if somebody wants to buy or sell, where are you located? How do people get in touch with you?
Springfield, Missouri area, Springfield, Branson. So we're in Southwest Missouri. And I am on all social media platforms at Kellie Revoir. So that's Kellie, and then my last name is Revoir on all social media platforms. So easy to find me.
Kelly's going to be the best team lead and the best agent in the whole state of Missouri.
Thank
So I highly,
you.
highly recommend.
I didn't even pay you to say that.
Thanks so much, Kelly.
Thanks, Ben. I appreciate you.